Hi everyone, my name is Maureen Green. I'm a licensed therapist in California, and our topic today is going to be self-soothing. We will cover soothing others, but primarily be focused on self-soothing today. This topic was requested by a few of the followers. Please keep them coming. I will do my best to post at least one video a month. That's my goal, and I'm hoping that they're relatable and that you can make use of them. So without talking about suffering, we can't really address self-soothing because they kind of have to coexist. If I don't have much suffering, then I don't have much to soothe within me. So typically there is some kind of suffering going on, some kind of disappointment, some kind of a letdown, whether we did let ourselves down or somebody else did, or there's a hurt feeling about something. There's something going on in our body. Sometimes we know what it is. Many times we don't know why we feel the way we feel, which is actually, those are the times we judge ourselves more, if you haven't noticed. And self-soothing becomes the sort of the sometimes conscious, but most of the time unconscious dialogue of how we speak to our suffering. Sometimes that dialogue is different when we speak to other people's suffering. I've noticed from my experience with my clients, we are often kinder, more gentler, and less judgmental sometimes with others and their suffering. We're more encouraging, we're more empathic and compassionate. But if a similar situation is going on within us, I'm noticing that a lot more people have harsher ways of treating themselves. So suffering and soothing go hand to hand. One cannot sort of, self-soothing would not have a function if there wasn't some form of suffering. So that's one. Self-soothing or soothing others is a form of a dialogue. It's the way we speak to others to help them soothe themselves, and it's the way we speak to ourselves to help ourselves soothe our inner world. Therefore, it's called, self-soothing. So how does this develop, and how can we be effective at this? I call self-soothing the language of our parents and our caregivers. This over time becomes our truth. What we hear our parents say or do when they're upset with themselves, for example, if they fail, as we're little and we grow up, we notice how they relate to their own errors or mistakes or failures. And then also what they teach us about failure or hurt feelings. You'll notice that most of the time, at least historically, most parents either try to shut it down, not feel, distract, avoid, pretend it doesn't exist, or try to make things better, which sounds very reasonable and logical. Kiss the boo-boo, make it go away. Try to problem solve, try to figure out whose fault it is so we can go solve the issue. All of these ways of functioning with suffering doesn't really address the inner suffering. It is addressing everything outside of us. How would people perceive me? What would I need to do to not be seen a certain way? Hold it together, be strong, don't cry in public, don't act like a little girl. All those types of statements and judgments we hear over the years of our upbringing become our truth over time, really without our permission, without our conscious assessment of whether or not I want to be this way with suffering, and if I really want to carry on this tradition to my own families with regards to suffering. So I want you to think of it as a programming that we are not aware of. It's taking place from early childhood, and then it kind of becomes so natural that we really truly believe it. So if we had very affirming and in-tuned parents who were able to see pain in our eyes, in our hearts, and just be able to be with it and sit with it and rub our back or comfort us in some way, just like you would with a little child. and not try to fix it right away, saying things like, oh, that's really hard. I hear you. That's really frustrating. That means I can tell your feelings are really hurt about that. Just staying with the pain for just a little bit of time. We're going to have a healthy relationship with suffering as we grow up. But that's very uncommon, I think, at least for our generation and older generations. Maybe for the newer generations, there's a lot more information now, and people are able to make use of, healthy, emotionally in tuned parenting that I just don't think really existed back when at least I was growing up. So. Self-soothing has to have a component of tolerance of discomfort in our body. It is uncomfortable to sit with people who are in pain, who are crying, who are upset, who are angry, who are agitated. It's uncomfortable. It creates discomfort in our body, and we want to get rid of that. And that's the drive that leads us to try to make things better for them by saying things, superficial things like, well, at least fill in the blank. At least this didn't happen, even though this happened. It kind of minimizes another person's experience. Or, well, we should focus on all the things we're grateful for. And how about the upside, of this? What's the silver lining in the situation? What can we learn from this situation? Or think of it as the glass half full, all of those types of things that most of us, think are being effective and being a good friend or a good parent or a good spouse. But, people walk away from those conversations really either like, well, I know I can't talk to this person anymore. They just really don't get it. And in most relationships, at least that I work with, and my own experience is people want to be understood and heard and believed. And if they have those three things, understanding, being believed, and heard, they actually can most of the time solve their own problems if there is a problem to be solved. And if there isn't, they walk away feeling really closer and much more deeply connected to us if we're able to give them that. So here's the deal, guys. We can't give that to others if we don't innately know how to do that naturally for ourselves. And it's not a natural skill. It is a developmental skill. I have to learn this and I have to practice this because it's unnatural not to want to fix the problem or the pain for someone else, especially from the ways we have, grown up. So how can we experience suffering without trying to fix it? We face it. We sit with it without trying to make it better. An example of that would be not necessarily agreeing that whatever this person's feeling or saying is right, but very much validating that by saying, I could see how that would be so hurtful. I could see how that would make you so frustrated with me. Even though I'm not agreeing that I did X, Y, and Z to make you frustrated, I could see how that is very hard for you. Now flip it onto yourself. What if you're upset about something within yourself? It has nothing to do with another person. How do you talk to yourself? How many of you judge yourself? How many of you, gosh, I'm so stupid. How many of you go there? I'm such a loser. I keep failing at everything. Nothing's ever going to work out for me. That's inner dialogue. And that's very negative inner dialogue. Self-soothing would be finding a friendship with your own sort of inner child and seeing that little baby girl or baby boy inside of you and speaking to that little human who is struggling inside. Changing the relationship with suffering means changing the relationship with the baby, with that inner child inside of you, and not speaking to him or her in ways that would be dismissive, judgmental, or hurtful, but would be very much honoring and curious. I do this, all the time within myself, especially within my meditative and yoga practice. Part of my meditation is actually checking in with my little self and asking her, how she's doing. And if something's going on, if my body's uncomfortable, if I'm sad for some reason and I don't even know it, I don't know why, or if I'm nervous about something or feel disappointed or whatever difficult suffering experience I'm having, natural inclination, remember, is to kind of push it away and distract from it and work more or stay busy with other things or go help somebody else or think about the brighter side of things, all those things, right? Instead, we take a moment, we go into that part of our body that is really uncomfortable. I've referenced the RAIN exercise by Tara Brach. If you look her up, R-A-I-N, RAIN, by Tara Brach. She's wonderful. She really will guide you through this process of just being with your suffering. But more so with self-soothing is being able to tell ourselves, it's okay. It's okay to feel this way. You have every right to feel sad. We don't have to know why. Think of what you would say to a little child, and that's what you want to say to yourself. That's what calms us. And I noticed that sometimes I could also be hard on myself when I failed myself. You know, if I said I'm not going to do this, but I did it anyway. So instead of trying to sugarcoat, which most of us do, you know, most of us are like, well, it's okay. You know, everybody makes mistakes. No, we don't want to say that because it doesn't work, because the inner child continues to argue with us like, but I keep doing this and this is so upsetting. You know, wow, God, this is so frustrating. Instead, yeah, it is frustrating. It is, you're a woman of your word and you keep making promises to yourself that then you break. Oh my gosh, that's so frustrating. Of course it is. So I call this claiming imperfection. I think it's very helpful to acknowledge that, gosh, yes, when we screw up, it really hurts. Instead of trying to, again, make it better. Or when we're just in a painful situation in our life, it just hurts. And maybe there aren't any quick or easy solutions or answers at that moment. But I could just be with that inner child, my inner baby, and I could say, yeah, we are very much in a shitty situation right now. Gosh, and yes, we don't see any way out right now. And this really is hard. We're not trying to make it better. We're not trying to keep going. But then look at the other side of things, and how are we going to get out of this? That's the secret, guys. If you just stay with pain, if you just honor the suffering, it's like a fire that doesn't get touched. It burns out. But all of these other things like distractions, avoidances, I have notes here, numbing, making things better, pushing it away, positivity, kind of like this untimely gratitude practice. Gratitude could be very helpful, but not in those moments of immediate suffering. It still falls under the category of you're trying to make things better. All of those are fuel to the fire. It just makes the fire more. It makes the fire hot, bigger in someone else that you're conversing with, or it would make it bigger in you. So if you want to tame your suffering, you need to sit with it. I'm not saying every day. I'm not saying for hours on end, but visit that sometimes for just 5 minutes and talk to that little human inside of you who's experiencing something that you may not even agree with. You might even judge that. Why should I have to feel this way? I don't want to feel this way. Well, you do. You already do. It's already happening. When we resist suffering, it grows. When we avoid it, it grows. The suffering could be depression, sadness, anxiety, fear, shame, guilt. Any of that will grow if we don't take a moment and just sit with it and speak to it through compassion and empathy, understanding, and actually give it a sense of belief. That's what people struggle with the most. They don't feel believed by others, and we don't feel believed. Our own inner child doesn't feel believed by us. I don't know if that makes sense. This may be something that maybe we can talk about in some future conversations, but I'm hoping this is helpful in a sense that covers what self-compassion is, what self-soothing is, how we do this with others, how we do this with ourselves, what is not self-soothing, and what will kind of, get in the way of it going away. Marsha Linehan, who is a DBT, the founder of dialectical behavioral therapy, I think I heard it from her first, if you just watch the fire and you just describe it, you just observe what's going on, whether that's in somebody else or within us. Just observe what's going on. I feel tension here. My stomach is churning, my head is spinning, or I see that you're in pain. You look very sad. Are you sad? Just observing what you're seeing and describing it, and not judging it, not adding to it, not taking away from it, not making it better. It just starts to decrease. It goes away eventually. Maybe not right away, but eventually. So I will stop here. I'm hoping this is helpful. Send me some notes on whether or not you found this helpful, and if other topics would be of interest. I have started a every other Friday class. It's a classroom format. It's in person for those of you who may be interested getting into more in-depth learning about yourself, about relationships, about your traumas, about ways you relate to others, interpersonal skills, self-regulation skills, emotion skills, how to suffer effectively. It is every other Friday, including this Friday from 1 to 3. You are welcome to send me a message, and I will see if that would be a good fit for you, and we can talk about the details. You can also, if you have an interest in doing some kind of virtual classes that will be longer and live classes so we can have participation, please let me know. And I can start looking into maybe doing something live virtually for those of you who can't attend in-person classes. Thank you so much for your time. Please follow me and subscribe on the YouTube channel and Instagram. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Take good care. Please suffer well. Take care.